This is the one thing that I think truly changes teaching into training. If you just do one thing I've asked you to do today, this is it. Here it is. You have got to deploy. If you don't involve students in the battlefield of ideas, this is all just teaching. This is our station. Can you imagine if every call for service I could handle by just staying on the phone? I could sit in dispatch all day, every call for service, I will just handle over the phone. I don't care what it is, I'll just try to figure out a way to handle it over the phone. Do I need to train physically then? No. Do I need to train tactically? No. I don't need to train at all. You don't need to train if you don't intend on deploying. If you've got no intention of deploying, there's no point on training. Now think about that as the church. Yeah, if you're not going to go do anything, there's no point in preparing. And that is the problem. I can only go so far on the chalkboard. If I want to teach you how to wrestle, I could draw it all day long. That's going to be important. But at some point, you've got to get your butt out of the chairs and get on the mat, because that's where you're actually going to learn how to wrestle. At some point, I've got to get you on the mat. I always say it this way in the book. This is one approach. They are not equal. Talking about it is not the same as doing it. If you thought, well, how can I do a better job of equipping myself? Well, yes, study is going to be important. But it turns out you are not going to change your Christian life by studying harder. You are going to change your Christian life with a calendar. It's not hard. Schedule something. I knew with my students, I wanted to teach them theology. I went in the first day, I role-played with them as a Mormon bishop. They couldn't answer any objections to Christianity from the Mormon bishop. They hated it. We trained for 8 weeks. Then we took a trip with Brett Kunkel, because we invented these trips, to Utah. And he was a pastor in Colorado who decided to take his students to Utah. We go there for 7 days. We're doing nothing but street evangelism. Speaking to the best people who are in Utah to help us train to talk to Mormons. And then we went on the street in Salt Lake City and did street evangelism at the campus at BYU. These are all Mormon missionaries talking to the 3 Christian kids. Now, I hate this picture, right? Because all the Mormons are wearing like nice white shirts and ties. The 3 Christian kids are wearing black, from Satan, basically, sitting there. I told them afterwards, you got to change what you're wearing. But the point is, these are deep conversations our students were in. And every night they would come back to the church where we were staying for 6 days and cry about how they had gotten beaten up by all the Mormon theologians they met that day, who were better prepared from Scripture to argue their point than they felt. We had trained for 8 weeks. And they felt this way because they were getting trumped. And they would stay up all night long on their own studying theology. I'd say, go to sleep. I didn't have the heart to tell them that tomorrow someone's going to mess you up an entirely different way. You can spend all this time studying. You'll probably never even see that issue again. But I loved this part of it. But I knew that it wasn't enough to teach my kids theology. I needed to teach them philosophy and how to think correctly. So I went to Brett and I said, Brett, we need another missions trip. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I want to do an atheist missions trip. I want to go to UC Berkeley. So we planned a week in UC Berkeley, and he's been doing these ever since. That's how Sean kind of got connected to us, because he saw us doing these trips. Again, on the campus of UC Berkeley, talking to atheist student groups, inviting atheist professors and thinkers in to have dialogues with our students, talking to people who are there, like Philip Johnson, the father of the ID movement, having our kids interact with these good thinkers, and then having them on the campus. Why are we doing this? Because every night they would come home looking like that again, studying like crazy. As a matter of fact, that was the best part of these trips. It was night after night after night watching our leaders, watching our students study, because that day, they had gotten messed up. Now, how can we employ this as believers? Get your calendar out. Stop making excuses. You've got Boulder, another great campus you can go to. There's probably a campus right near you. You can take a one-day trip. In the book I've given you our forms that we use, our interviews that we do, the outlines, the kind of question sheets we use on campuses. I provided a copy of that for you in the book. Take an excursion of your own. How about this? Some of you are active in your church. Some of you are not. Some of you have not yet volunteered to teach an apologetics class. What are you waiting for? I guarantee you this. You put that on your calendar, you'll become the best trainee you've ever had, because you are going to have to train to get ready to train others. Put that on your calendar. Step up. Do something. I used to do on Sunday nights in my house a whiteboard talk with my kids. I put it in front of the fireplace. We'd just do an evidence talk every Sunday night. I knew by Friday I had to start studying for Sunday. Again, I calendared the challenge. It made the study directed. It turned teaching into training. Some of you are even active on Facebook. Start a group. Start posting. These things you can put on your calendar. For a lot of us, it's just a matter of saying, hey, my Aunt Lorraine has never heard the gospel. I keep on avoiding it because I know she's got some objections. But now I'm going to put it on my calendar. We got to do something. This changes everything. Once you have a list of things you'd like to learn, but you now calendar a battle, calendar an activity, that turns all that time in the middle into training.